You followed the rules and did everything right, from counting every single calorie to dragging yourself to the gym 3 times a week. But the scale still refused to move. Even if you saw a tiny bit of progress, the weight probably crept right back on, which eventually makes you wonder if something is just fundamentally broken inside your body. The truth is that while the calorie model isn't exactly wrong, it is definitely the wrong tool for understanding how your body actually works. Trying to lose weight by only counting calories is like trying to fix a broken car engine by measuring how much gas you put in the tank, because that approach completely ignores the mechanical disaster happening under the hood. The real reason that fat won't budge has nothing to do with your willpower or your metabolism being naturally slow, and it definitely isn't because you didn't want it badly enough. Everything comes down to a single hormone called insulin, and once you understand what it's doing inside you, you'll finally see why your fat-burning switch has been stuck in the off position for years. Instead of thinking of your body as a simple calculator, try picturing a chemical factory that runs 24 hours a day with a foreman named insulin making all the big decisions. This foreman decides exactly what happens to the fuel coming into the factory, meaning he chooses if it gets burned for energy right now or packed away into storage crates. Every single decision your body makes about fat has to go through him first, which makes him the most important player in the game. When the system works the way nature intended, the process is actually pretty elegant. You eat a meal, your blood sugar rises, and your pancreas responds by releasing insulin into your bloodstream to manage the load. Insulin travels to your cells and fits into special receptors on the surface, just like a key sliding into a lock. And once that lock turns, the door opens so sugar can flow in to be burned for fuel. When the sugar is gone, your insulin levels drop back down, and that low level acts as a green light telling your body it is finally okay to start burning stored fat for energy. The problem for most of us starts when we eat sugary foods and refined carbs so often that our cells get flooded with insulin every hour of the day. Because the signal is always screaming, your cells eventually start to tune it out and the locks stop responding to the key. It is exactly like getting so many spam calls on your cell phone that you eventually stop picking up altogether. And that is the moment your cells literally stop listening to the hormone meant to help them. Your body starts to panic because it doesn't realize the locks are jammed, so it just sees sugar sitting in the blood and assumes it needs more keys to get the job done. It pumps out even more insulin to force those doors open. And this is where things get frustrating, because as long as your insulin is high, fat burning is completely shut off. It doesn't matter if you only ate 1,200 calories that day, because the high insulin signal overrides everything else and tells your body to store every bit of energy it can find. You might see someone eating a salad for lunch and skipping the office birthday cake while drinking nothing but water, yet they still watch their waistline grow every single month. That isn't a character flaw or a lack of discipline, but rather a broken signaling system where the person is working incredibly hard while fighting the wrong battle. I had a friend who spent 2 months straight cutting her intake down to 1,200 calories a day, and she ended up tired, irritable, and 3 pounds heavier than when she started. She wasn't cheating on her diet or miscounting her portions, but her insulin was so high for years of high-carb eating that her body stayed stuck in storage mode. Her lock was jammed, and simply eating less food was never going to be the thing that unjammed it. What actually causes this whole system to jam up in the first place? Most people are quick to blame sugar, and while sugar definitely plays a part, the real culprit is something a bit more subtle. The problem comes down to how often you eat, combined with what you're putting on your plate, because that constant frequency is what eventually breaks the machine. If you look at a typical day for most people, it starts with breakfast at 7, followed by a granola bar at 10 because of a little mid-morning hunger. Then there is lunch at noon, an afternoon coffee with a treat around 3, dinner at 6, and maybe one last snack while watching TV at 9 at night. Every single one of those moments sends a fresh spike of insulin into your bloodstream, and even if those spikes aren't huge, they are constant. Your cells never get a moment of peace, which means the locks never get a chance to reset, and sensitivity can't return if the signal never goes quiet. Human bodies were actually built for a completely different rhythm than the one we use today. For the vast majority of history, people ate a meal and then went many hours without food before eating again, which allowed insulin levels to drop significantly. During those long gaps, cells got a rest and recovered their sensitivity while the body shifted over to burning stored fat for fuel. That natural rhythm used to be our default setting, but modern eating habits have essentially deleted it from our lives. This is exactly where the fix starts to make sense. Because if the problem is a system that never rests, then rest becomes the medicine. You don't need to starve yourself or do anything dramatic. You just need to create longer gaps between meals so insulin has enough room to fall. Even a 12 to 14-hour window overnight, like finishing dinner by 7 p.m. and not eating again until 7 or 8 the next morning, is enough to start moving the needle. You are asleep for most of that time anyway, but during those quiet hours, insulin drops and cells start responding again for the first time in years. The specific food you choose matters just as much as the timing does. Protein and healthy fats don't trigger much of an insulin response at all, so swapping a granola bar for a handful of almonds or 2 hard-boiled eggs removes an entire insulin spike from your day. When you multiply that change across a full week, you've given your body hours of quiet time it wasn't getting before. Foods like non-starchy vegetables, meat, fish, and full-fat dairy don't hammer the system the way a bowl of cereal or a slice of bread does. You aren't necessarily eating less food. You are just stopping the constant noise so your cells can finally hear the signal again. Once your cells start listening, things begin to shift in ways that might feel a little strange at first. That energy crash you used to feel at 2 in the afternoon simply stops happening, and you might find yourself going 5 hours between meals without feeling desperate or shaky. You won't be obsessing over the vending machine because your body is finally doing what it was designed to do, which is running on its own stored fat. This isn't some kind of secret diet hack. It is just your biology finally working the way it was always supposed to. None of this is about suffering through fewer calories or being hungry all the time. It is really just about getting out of your own body's way so it can heal itself. The core problem was never about how much you were eating. Your body's fat-burning switch simply got stuck in the off position, and no amount of calorie counting could flip it back on while insulin was still running the show. Tonight, try finishing your last meal a little bit earlier so you can leave a 12-hour gap before you eat breakfast. Try swapping out just one high-carb snack for a protein-heavy option instead. Make that one change starting right now, and just see how your body responds to the rest. If this video changed the way you think about weight loss, make sure to subscribe. I put out more videos like this every single week.